The TARDIS jumps a time track and the travelers arrive on the planet Xeros. There they discover their own future selves displayed as exhibits in a museum established as a monument to the galactic conquests of the warlike Morlock invaders who now rule the planet. When time shifts back to normal, they realize that they must do everything they can to avert this potential future. Vicky helps native Xerons obtain arms and revolt against the Morlocks. Revolution succeeds and the travelers go on their way, confident that the future has been changed. Welcome, friends and companions. How are you today? Yes, it's time for a live stream. So, sci-fi fantasy fans and all sort of fans meet on this channel for fun chats about their beloved books, movies, series, and franchises. We also talk about food and drinks, music and sport, and a special place on this channel for Doctor Who. We are random because we'll discuss everything that involves entertainment, including movies and series, books and music. Random because we broadcast non-fixed times, actually many different times. You need to subscribe to this channel to know what time the broadcast is. Random also because we have no guests or different guests. It depends who wants to show me in a live stream or panel. If you want to show me in a live stream, feel free to contact me via Discord or YouTube and we'll look what is possible. And what also is possible is to invite me for your channel for a live stream or panel. I'm available for that. I want also to contribute on your channel and make friends and network. So feel free to invite me also for a live stream or panel on your channel. Yes. The Discord server of this channel is called Random Entertainment Channel Tech Doctor Who on Discord. And you will find me very quick because I bump the server regularly. So cheers, mate, and have lots of fun. Your host, Enigmatic Joker. That's me. Okay. Actually, it's now time to burp the server. Yes. Okay. In the list in Discord. First Doctor story. William Hartnell or Bill Hartnell. The Space Museum. Yes. Oh, very good. The First Doctor. So, some general info about this story. So, the Space Museum was the seventh serial of season 2 of Doctor Who. It was the first story to deal with the dimensions of time as well as space, and the first to feature alternate timelines. While it presented many original science fiction elements, it still retains the elements of a typical story of the era. The story's cliffhanger also presented the fans with a preview of the Daleks' third appearance. Their return was awaited impatiently, a fact that was baited by the appearance of a Dalek shell in parts 1 and 2. The shell was the final appearance of the original Dalek design until Magician's Apprentice in 2015, and that was with the 12th Doctor Peter Capaldi and his companion Clara Oswald. The Daleks at the end of the final phase do not have the metal band of their predecessors. So, that's some general info on background. This story is 4 episodes. It's 25 minutes. The story is called The Space Museum, but that's the overall name of this story. It's 4 parts, 4-episode story, but each episode has its own name under the story, The Space Museum. So we will do episode by episode, and yes, let's go then into plot. Yeah. So the first episode of the story, The Space Museum, is called The Space Museum. So that is episode 1. So the TARDIS materializes on a planet replete with many different specimens of space technology. The Doctor says that they have landed far quicker than he ever has done before. Ian and Barbara notice that they have switched clothes since just before they landed. They had been in their 12th century crusade clothes. The doctor explains this away as being mere time and relativity and says that their old clothes will be hanging in the wardrobe, which Vicky confirms. Following the doctor's orders, Vicky fetches a glass of water from the food machine. She is startled by something and drops the drink. As the glass smashes on the floor, it immediately reforms itself and leaps back into her hand. She reports this to the doctor, who says that all should be explained when they explore the planet they have landed on. He postulates it is a museum because the spacecraft are lined up in chronological order. So, um, once they leave the TARDIS, they find the planet has nothing living on it. Ian also notices that their footprints make no tracks in the dust. The travelers head towards a large building in the middle of the spacecraft. Once there, they find the doors shut, but they soon open to reveal two men. The travelers hide from the men, but as they pass, Vicky sneezes loudly. To the travelers' surprise, two men do not seem to hear her. The doctor says this is inexplicable and begins to explore the building. Yeah, as the doctor usually does, exploring. As they walk through the many corridors, they are startled by a Dalek, which they then realize is only a museum piece. As discussed their previous experiences with Daleks, about which Vicky has only read about, they see two more men coming who are different to the ones they saw previously. They hide, but are surprised to see that, although the men seem to be speaking to each other, they are inaudible to the travelers. Ian wonders if they speak at another frequency than humans. Doctor doubts it, but has no other explanations. As they continue to explore the museum, Vicky discovers that they cannot touch any of the pieces on display. Their hands simply pass through them. The doctor suggests they are not actually where they think they are. Yet again, the travelers encounter three men who go about their business, unaware of the travelers. This supports the doctor's theory. Further in the museum, they find the doctor's TARDIS on display. Barbara, Ian, and Vicky, although confused as to how the ship came to be here, say they think they should leave the planet. The doctor soon proves this to be impossible. The TARDIS also cannot be touched. The doctor points out a display case containing the bodies of the four travelers. He says the TARDIS must have jumped a time track when they materialized, therefore they temporarily occupy a fourth dimension. This let them be simultaneously in the cases in one reality and standing looking at themselves in the fourth dimension. The doctor suggests that the only course of events is to wait at the museum until they return to the real reality. He suggests that what they are seeing in front of them is merely a possibility of the future, and it can be changed. He notes that the versions of them in the display cases are wearing the same clothes as they are wearing now, so it is only a matter of time before the two realities merge again. No sooner does he say this than Barbara has a strange feeling. Time seems to rewind, and two men discover the TARDIS. At the same time, display cases disappear. The doctor announces, "We have arrived." End of episode 1 of the Space Museum. Episode 2 of the Space Museum is called Dimensions of Time. The museum's curator, Lobos, receives news of the alien ship that has landed on his planet. Although concerned, he is also pleased to have his day's monotony broken by an intruder. He orders his men to find the visitors before the rebels find them. However, He is too late. Three rebels have already heard about the travelers and intend to intercept them before Lobos' men. They will befriend them and overthrow the oppressive rule that Lobos, a representative of the Morocks, holds over them. Meanwhile, in the museum, the travelers have taken a gun from the exhibition to bluff their way out of the museum. The four friends discuss how best to avoid the future that they saw in the fourth dimension. It is suggested that they do the opposite of what they would normally do, but they decide to try to escape. If they escape, then they will never be captured in the first place. They begin to navigate the labyrinthine corridors, searching for an escape. As they make their way through the corridors, they are pursued by the rebels, who decide that to avoid startling the travelers, they will capture one of them and explain their situation. It is not long before the opportunity shows itself. As the travelers walk through the corridors, the doctor is distracted by an exhibit and falls behind his friends. The rebels grab him and carry him away, a door without the others seeing. He plays dead, and the rebels decide to split up. One of the rebels, Deco, elects to stay and watch the doctor while the others go to track the other travelers. The remaining travelers, now aware of the doctor's disappearance, argue how to best to find him and save themselves from their possible future. They decide it is best to push on for the exit. The two rebels return to discover that Deco has been tied up and gagged. They just question him about what happened, but he has no memory after being knocked unconscious. They go to seek the doctor, who they assume escaped back into the museum. However, he is hiding in the hollowed out Dalek shell. When he escapes, he is accosted yet again, but this time by the Morocks. Barbara, Ian, and Vicky, now tired and cranky, decide to use yarn to ensure that they are not repeating their paths. They unravel Barbara's cardigan to do this. So the rebels find the yarn and decide to follow it. Eventually, they find the exit. As they pull back the doors, they see that the TARDIS has been captured. The doctor finds himself in a room with only a chair. As he sits on it, bars lock in place. A wall slides up to reveal Lobos. He explains that the museum is a homage to the great history of the Morocks and it is silent because the Morocks are now peace-loving creatures. Lobos asks the doctor with whom he came here. The doctor refuses to say, but Lobos somehow knows anyway. He explains that the doctor's chair allows his thoughts to be shown on a video screen on his desk. When Lobos continues to question the doctor on how he came here and where he is from, the doctor uses the strength of his brain to confuse and misdirect Lobos. Lobos tires of this and summons his guards to take the doctor to the preparation room. He will become an exhibit, causing an image of the doctor on display to appear. And this is the end of episode 2. Episode 3 of the story The Space Museum. The episode 3 is called The Search. Barbara, Ian, and Vicky look on as the Morocks decide to try to force their way into the TARDIS. One of the Morocc soldiers is sent to fetch equipment. As the humans discuss what they should do, a Morocc finds them and holds them at calling point. Ian decides that if they are to be put in the exhibition cases in the future, the Morocc soldiers must have been told not to kill them. The gun must be a deterrent, not a threat. Ian calls the soldier's bluff and overpowers him. The other Moroccs overhear the scuffle and rush to try to catch the travelers, but in the panic, the humans flee in different directions. Barbara hides behind a stack of boxes. The Moroccs leave without seeing her, but she finds they have locked the door, trapping her. Vicky escapes from the Moroccs another way and gets captured not by the Morgs, but by the rebel faction. At first, she is terrified of the captors, especially when she hears that they captured the doctor, but the rebels insist they wish her no harm. This is proved when they send one of their number, Darko, to find Barbara. He elects to hide behind the TARDIS. He overhears a conversation between the Morgue guard and Lobos over instructions to guard the TARDIS while the rest of the army track down the aliens. Using a stone to distract the guard, Ian overpowers him and holds him at gunpoint. He orders the guard to take him to where the doctor is, being held. The guard informs him that it will be too late for the doctor, but Ian insists. Lobos is tired of the aggravation from high command. What with the aliens running loose on his planet and the ever-growing number of Xeron rebels on his base, he elects to flood his machine with Zephyr gas. This paralyzes anyone who inhales it, making all the Morg's enemies easy pickings. Darko finds the room in which Barbara is hiding, but is almost knocked unconscious by a terrified Barbara. He says her name. This calms her. Darko explains that his race is called the Xerons and that they are the original occupants of this planet. But the war-loving Morlocks took over the planet to establish their museum. The Morlocks swept away the Xeron civilization and killed all the Xeron people except the children, whom they enslaved. These are the Xerons that now live underground in the museum. The conversation is interrupted by the Zephyr gas that floods into the room. Barbara and Darko try to escape before falling under the gas paralytic effects. Vicky is also being given a lesson on Xeron history. The Xerons admit that whilst they are more numerous, they do not have the artillery to overpower the Morgs. Vicky asks if there is an armory that they can raid. The Xerons say that there is, but it is protected by a lock with a lie detector. Unless you answer a series of questions truthfully, you cannot enter. Vicky asks to be taken to this machine, and Xerons willingly oblige, happy to have an addition for the revolutionary force. Meanwhile, Ian and the Morgue guard have arrived at the preparation room where the doctor is being held. The guard suggests waiting until it isn't as busy to enter. Ian agrees. They are soon interrupted by Lobos. Ian hides while the Morgs talk. Ian learns that his friends have not been captured, but gas will be used on them. They hide until the preparation room may be more accessible. Sita, Thor, and Vicky arrive at the armory. Vicky listens to the questions that the complex telekinetic lock asks. As soon as she heard the full cycle, she takes off the front of the machine and tinkers with its workings. She gets the machine to ask her the questions again. When asked what her name is, she responds with Vicky. And when asked what the guns are to be used for, she responds Revolution. To the surprise of Xerons, the doors open. When the Xerons begin arming themselves, Vicky explains that she wired her machines to accept any truthful answer, not just the ones that the Morgs were looking for. Lobos is interrupted by Ian, who has gained access to the preparation room. Ian holds Lobos at gunpoint and demands to see the doctor. Lobos obliges, saying there is no point, and Ian stops in his tracks, shocked at the state the doctor is in. End of episode 3. The last episode of the story, The Space Museum, is called The Final Phase. Episode 4, The Final Phase. Ian finds the doctor attached to a device, unconscious. He demands that Lobos reverse whatever it is that the machine has done to the doctor. Lobos says the doctor is as good as dead and would be impossible to revive him. It has never been done before. Ian forces Lobot at gunpoint to try anyway. Meanwhile, Thor marshals the Xeron and Revolution. He orders his newly armed platoon to attack the barracks. As they do, Vicky says she wants to help her friends. to help find her friends. After arguing briefly, Thor agrees but sends Sita to protect her. Back in the preparation room, Lobos has defied the odds and has resurrected the doctor. The only side effect that the doctor displays is a bit of rheumatism from the extreme cold to which he was subjected. As the doctor and Ian discuss their next move, a group of Morlocks silently ambush them, knocking Ian unconscious. Once Lobos has imprisoned two men, he tries to call the barracks to muster more men to find the rest of the aliens. There is no answer. Outside, where Morg soldier guards the TARDIS, doors to the museum spring open to reveal Barbara and Daco. Barbara has carried Daco to safety after he collapsed from the sapphire glass. The doctor pulls his gun on them when a shot rings out and he falls. Barbara and Daco turn to see Vicky and Sita, who is holding a gun. Sita tells Daco about the situation. Um, Barbara and Vicky decide to join them, hoping they will find the doctor and Ian on the way. While they talk, another more soldier appears. He shoots Daco and Sita and takes Barbara and Vicky prisoner. The soldier returns Daco and Sita's guns to Lobos. Now Lobos says it is from the armory and worries he cannot contact his soldiers there either. Hello, Island Burgholder. How are you today? So the four travelers are reunited, locked in the preparation room. In an effort to render their possible future redundant, Ian destroys the machine that turns them into exhibits. However, the Doctor speculates that there are many more on the planet. Ian and Barbara seem resigned that there is no escaping the future they saw. But Vicky and the Doctor say that ever since they touched down on Xeron, they have been altering and affecting the course of events. Although they can't alter their own chain of events while imprisoned, they may have made an impression on others who will do it for them. Outside Xeron's overpower the Morgs in the battle for Xeron. Xeron rebels include Sita and Daco, who were only paralyzed by the blast from a Morg soldier. Thor finds them and demands to know what happened to Vicky. And Sita says that they were taken to the preparation room. Thor and his men go after her. It's a great way. Rained hard and air looks clean and bright. Perfect. Not so warm. Outside the preparation room, Lobos receives news that defeat is inevitable. He decides to flee the planet and orders the killing of his prisoners. Just as the travelers are about to be killed, Thor and the rebels burst through the door and kill Lobos, freeing the Doctor and his companions. Later, reunited with his TARDIS, the Doctor explains to Ian and Barbara the problem he had with his TARDIS was all down to a small part that hadn't quite clicked into place. This meant that they have been wandering around Xeron for a while, before it clicked back into place and re-landed again, resetting time. The Xerons have given the Doctor a time-space visualizer as a souvenir before they dismantle the machine. He tells his friends that he will be able to get it working again, but leaves its actual use as a mystery to them. Vicky bids goodbye to Thor and enters the TARDIS, which dematerializes. On a distant planet, where this is Scarrow or not is unclear, a Dalek enters a control room in response to an alarm call. It informs another Dalek via a communications panel that their greatest enemies have left Xeros. The response from the Dalek at the other end is that the Daleks' own time machine will soon be in pursuit, and their enemies will soon be exterminated. And that, my friends, is the end of the story, The Space Museum. Also, an introduction what is to what is to come. But that is in later. So, And names of cast members. Some is that Doctor Who is played by William Hartnell. Ian Chesterton is played by William Russell. Barbara Wright is played by Jacqueline Hill. Vicky is played by Maureen O'Brien. Sita is played by Peter Sanders. Rako is played by Peter Craze. Lobos is played by Richard Shaw. And Thor is played by Jeremy Bullock. And there are further are some Maroks and Xerons, but we leave that. Dalek Foch is Peter Hawkins. Yeah. Some world building in his story. So the Doctor claims he was with James Watt when discovered steam power. Yeah, Doctor Mead have met more famous people. So the second thing is that the Morgs were from Morrock. Third thing is the Morgs used a paralytic called Zephyr gas during the creation of their empire. A fourth thing in world building is that the museum has a Dalek as an exhibit with a sign confirming it comes from Scarrow. A fifth thing is that Vicky states that time, like space, although a dimension in itself, also has dimensions of its own. Very interesting. And a sixth thing is that Doctor calls up images of Penny farting walruses and himself in the Victorian era bathing suit. And a seventh thing is that the Doctor claims his brain works, quote, at the speed of a mechanical computer, end quote. So, more about some things about this story, some story notes. All episodes exist as 60mm still recordings. The William Hartnell does not appear in the episode The Search, except in the reprise from the previous episode, Dimensions of Time. As he was on holiday during the week, it was recorded. Yeah, so something. Of all the William Hartnell stories with individual episode titles, this is the only one for which only one overall story title has ever been used. Although it's whole interesting, she also disputed story titles. About disputed story titles. A disputed story title is one which has generated controversy amongst fans who are knowledgeable of the production history of Doctor Who. And on television, the overwhelming majority belongs to serials of the William Hartnell era of television Doctor Who, although a few come from later stories. So that's some things about the story titles, because in the beginning, each episode of Doctor Who has its own name, and later there were so overall names given to it. So this for the record, some little explanation about the disputed story titles. So that is until the 70s, for example, late into his career as the first Doctor, stories were broadcast not under a serial title, but rather as a series of individual title episodes. But thus, when there eventually arose a need to talk of these stories in the context of later serials, which only had serial title, they had to have been given a retroactive serial title they had never publicly had before. So, two particular impetuses for this process were the publication of the first list of serials, such as the Doctor Who program guide and the initial Peace Enterprise release of the serials to home video. So, again, some interesting stuff. But it is good to mention this. Um, okay, that's for that. Okay. It was during the production of this story that Jacqueline Hill decided that she was leaving the series. Um, and this is the only story Mervyn Pinfield directed entirely by himself. Um, Another thing is that the first episode, from the story the Space Museum, that is called the Space Museum, begins with a brief reprise of the final scene of the Crusade. This clip is currently the only surviving 16mm black and white film footage from that story's final episode, and it is called The Warlords. Um, then the incidental music for this story was all from stock recordings rather than being especially composed for the story. Um, um, okay. Um, Another thing is that the cause of the time distortion was originally a machine in a more processing room rather than an issue with the TARDIS components. Um, there's some story notes for this story. I think that most important story no story notes. Um, some continuity. Four things in this. The Doctor fixes this time space visualizer um, and uses it again. And time space visualizer that is in the TV story The Chase, and that's for later talk about that. The faction paradox use a similar device to show fits his future. Uh, okay, misschien maybe eens explanation about the faction paradox. Interesting. This is a story full of dimensions, but a faction paradox, often simply shortened to the faction and previously known as House paradox, was a time active cult and criminal syndicate devoted to opposing the Time Lord's traditional philosophy of rationality and stability over time travel. Originally founded by grandfather Paradox as a renegade great house, they were based in the 11th Day Empire and notably inducted members of the lesser species into their ranks. They played a neutral role in the war in heaven between the Time Lords and the enemy. There's some things in prose alien bodies, the Book of the War at all. Some accounts refer to it as the Fallen House in prose, previously on the Multiverse, or House of the Fallen in prose, the Dinosaur in the Snow. And most Time Lords, including the Doctor, dreaded the faction, in prose alien bodies. Iris Wildtime described the defection as paradox-inducing psychopaths from the far future, a sentiment that was attributed to the book Doctor Who and Interference is prose, befuddlement and devotion, and quote, insolent children playing at being cultists, messing about with their shadows and tying their timelines into impractical knots, end quote. Prose Panda and the airship. Timon, the vice president of Gallifrey, merely said the faction had no interest in the arts. Prose the ancestor cell. So some background information about the fiction paradox. Um, the TARDIS will jump in its own time track again. This in prose, A Festival of Death, and Prisoner of the Daleks. The 11th Doctor, Matt Smith, also thinks at first that this may have occurred again when he, Amy, and Rory start switching between two dreams. Each seem real, but is proven incorrect. That's in the TV story Amy's Choice. A third thing in continuity is that Mortimus was once an advisor to the Morlocks, and we see that in prose No Future. And a fourth, less thing continuity is that the Doctor would later visit other space museums. We see that, for example, in the story The Seeds of Death. That's with fourth Doctor Tom Baker and with his companion Sarah Jane. Nee, oh nee, that is the second Doctor and the Jamie and Zoe. That's The Seeds of Death. Yeah. Um, that's I've done that story lately on one of the live streams. No, so and also the Doctor would later visit a safe museum in Dalek. That is with um, the Ninth Doctor and Rose, and in the Time of Angels. In that story is also a space museum, and that is with the 11th Doctor, Matt Smith, and Amy and River. So that is all I have to say about this story. Hope you enjoy. So commercial then, and then perfecto. Sci-fi and fantasy fans and all sort of fans meet on this channel for fun chats about their beloved books, movies, series, and franchises. We also talk about food and drinks and music and sport. A special place on this channel for Doctor Who. Random, because we discuss everything involves entertainment, including movies and series, books and music. Random, because we broadcast non-fixed times, actually many different times. You need to subscribe to this channel to know what time the broadcast is. Random also because we'll have no guests or different guests. It depends on what you join me in the live stream panel. If you want to join me in live stream, feel free to contact me via Discord or YouTube. And we'll look what is possible. And also it's possible to invite me for your channel. Feel free to invite me for your channel. I also want to contribute on your channel in live stream or panel and talk about things you are interested in. So feel free. Discord server is called Random Entertainment Channel. Tag Doctor Who on Discord and you find me very quick because I bump the server regularly. So cheers, mate, and have lots of fun. Your host, Enigmatic Joker. That's me. Okay, see you all next time. For now, have a nice day. I see you later. Bye bye. Bye bye.